This Bugatti Gert, True Serum, here once again to give my people the truth. And they got a case that the Supreme Court decided on. I'm gonna take you to the case right now. Basically, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to show people what we are continuing to go through in the South because of these oppressed laws.
The Louisiana Supreme Court has denied a request to review the case of a black man who received a life sentence following an attempted burglary conviction, a punishment one dissenting judge. Louisiana's Supreme Court has denied a request to review the case of a black man who received a life sentence following an attempted burglary conviction, a punishment one dissenting judge called cruel and unusual, given the object he allegedly stole was a set of hedge clippers. Burnett J. Johnson, the state's first African-American Chief Justice, wrote a scathing dissent published last week. Johnson said the conviction stemmed from the defendant's repeated petty crimes in the state's strict habitual offender laws, which she said have historical ties to slavery and racism.
Now, what I just showed you was what just took place a couple of days ago with this guy by the name of Brian. Okay. What he did was, he's been incarcerated for 23 years. And he had his case brought before the Louisiana Supreme Court. He was convicted in 1997. It's the year 2020. He's been in jail 23 years. He was convicted in 1997 of stealing some hedge clippers. Trimmers, hedge trimmers, which you go outside and you trim your bushes with. That's what he's convicted of stealing. 1997. He's been in jail 23 years. Already, he's serving a life sentence for it. The man is serving a life sentence for it. And he's been in jail 23 years. And he's asking for his freedom. He's asking for his freedom. The crime doesn't fit the time. But this is what's going on in the South on an everyday basis. Louisiana is one of the highest incarceration rates in the world. We were number one up until 2017 when they passed the Prison Reform Act. We became number two. So kudos to them. But Louisiana has the highest incarceration act. The highest incarceration. Number one and number two in the world. And we have one of the most notorious prisons known, which is Angola, which is full of lifers for non-violent offenses. Full of lifers, full of people who do heavy time for small, minor offenses. And as you're going to learn in this video, is how everything came about.
The Louisiana Supreme Court has published last week. Johnson said the conviction stemmed from the defendant's repeated petty crimes in the state's strict habitual offender laws, which she said have historical ties to slavery and racism. The case, as described by the Washington Post in a 2000 Louisiana Court of Appeal opinion published by the Free Law Project, involves a 1997 incident in which Fair Wayne Bryant was convicted of attempted burglary. The event happened after Bryant's vehicle stalled and he admitted going into someone's carport looking for a tank of gas.
Why are they showing
a real tank? He was discovered and fled. After later being stopped by police, Bryant faced allegations that going into someone's carport looking for a tank of gas. He was discovered and fled. After later being...
Can someone tell me right there, why did they show a real tank? Talking about a tank of gas? I don't understand that. We're going to move right along.
Stop.
Excuse me.
The Louisiana Supreme Court has denied a request to review the case of a black man who received a life sentence following an attempted racism. The case, as described by the Washington Post in a 2000 Louisiana Court of Appeal opinion published by the Free Law Project, involves a 1997 incident in which Fair Wayne Bryant was convicted of attempted burglary. The event happened after Bryant's vehicle stalled and he admitted going into someone's carport looking for a tank of gas. He was discovered and fled. After later being stopped by police, Bryant faced allegations that hedge clippers found in his vehicle were stolen from the carport, a claim he denied. At greater issue in the case, evidence suggesting Bryant intended to commit a theft in his previous criminal record. He received a life sentence and has been unsuccessful in his attempts to appeal it. Johnson, the court's only...
Now, they showed you they showed you they showed you they was showing you his priors, and underneath the Louisiana habitual offender law, which states that they can enhance time when you get another conviction because of your prior conviction. So I'm gonna try to break it down like this, right? Let's say I go into a bank and I'm like, I need a loan. And the bank give me a loan and I pay that loan back. I'm in good standing. I pay my debt, right? But I need another loan. And just imagine when you go back to that bank, which is the court system, when you go back to that bank and you need another loan, the bank say, well, we're going to give you the other loan. But the loan that you paid back, it's no longer valid. You have to pay that loan all over again. The first loan, along with the second that you're about to get. And if you need 3 loans, right? Let's say you need another loan, right? Those other 2 loans you done paid back, it's no longer valid. You got to pay 3 loans now. And basically, that's what the habitual offender bill is. It punishes you for prior convictions that you already paid your debt to society for. And so that's what took place. And he used that bill and he gave this man a life sentence behind hedge clippers. Now we got people that's getting out of jail for murder because of COVID-19. And you mean to tell me this man couldn't get out of jail behind some hedge clippers? First off, on the Louisiana Supreme Court, there were 6 judges. 5 was white, 1 was black, and she was a female. It's a female judge, right? And she voted against it. The 5 white judges,
the Louisiana Supreme Court has denied a request.
The 5 white judges, they voted for the man to continue on serving a life sentence. That's what they did. They voted for this man to continue serving a life sentence. And I just want to ask them, what if that was your brother? What was that your dad? What was that your son? And they have served 23 years of their life in prison behind some hedge clippers. How would you feel if they were before somebody else? Just imagine that. And this is what we deal with every day in the South. And these laws were created, give you a quick history lesson. These laws were created during the Reconstruction era, when blacks didn't have jobs, when they just was leaving the plantations from their slave owners. And the slave masters came up, because those were the people with the money. And they came up and they created laws. It was a crime not to have a job because they knew black people wasn't going to have a job. So they made it a crime not to even have a job at that time. And what they was doing is that through the justice system, through the criminal system, they were re-enslaving the slaves through laws. That's why when they sentence you, they always say the hard labor. That's why they always say the hard labor. And the convicts were sent back to the plantations. And big up to Michelle Alexander. She wrote a book called the New Jim Crow, the Mass Incarceration in the Age of Colorblindness. She wrote that book, and it explains about the Reconstruction era and how these laws were used, and it's still being done today. So we're gonna finish this up.
In the case, evidence suggesting Bryant intended to commit a theft in his previous criminal record. He received a life sentence and has been unsuccessful in his attempts to appeal it. Johnson, the court's only black judge, was the only judge to support reviewing the case. She described Bryant's previous offenses as the kind of petty theft, often tied to the ravages of poverty or addiction. She criticized the state's repeat offender law, which allowed for the life sentence, likening it to pig laws and racist black codes. Harsh habitual offender laws permit a life sentence for a black man convicted of property crimes, Johnson wrote. This man's life sentence for a failed attempt to steal a set of hedge clippers is grossly out of proportion to the crime and serves no legitimate penal purpose. The term pig law derives from Mississippi, where the theft of any property over $10 became grand larceny. According to the Mississippi Department of History's historic timeline, the prison population subsequently quadrupled. Johnson also highlighted the cost of Bryant's incarceration in her dissent. If he lives another 20 years, Louisiana taxpayers will have paid almost $1 million to punish Mr. Bryant for his failed effort to steal a set of hedge clippers.
Now, with this, now, the Supreme Court Justice, who's disagreeing with the other 5 white Supreme Court Justices, she's black, she's a female, and she's saying, hey, the crime doesn't fit the time. I know people personally, myself, that have served less time for murder. Yes, have served less time for murdering somebody. And you mean this man did serve a life sentence for stealing hedge clippers? And she's saying the crime, that the judge is saying that the crime doesn't fit the time, y'all. Plus, it has cost us $500,000 to house this individual for something so petty. That's what's wrong with the system. That's why the system is broken. Plus, she's also highlighted that these laws are oppressing blacks. Just as plain in their face in her dissent. And that's what's wrong with the system. Now, Mr. Joe Biden, who pushed that crime bill through the 1990s, Mr. Joe Biden, Democratic presidential candidate, who pushed that bill in the 1990s, and the prison system has quadrupled. So for those decades, Mr. Joe Biden, you know how many black people, families were destroyed? How, Mr. Joe Biden? Do you know that? How many black people, families, and stuff was destroyed because of what you did in a crime bill that you pushed through? So it's not until we attack this judicial system, man, because blacks are what, 20% of the United States population, but we populate 70% of the prison system. So if I got $20, how can I give you 70? If I only have 20, how can I give you 70? That means half of all black people in jail. And the majority are black men. And the majority are the fathers. And we know when fathers ain't in the home, the family successory falls. The cycle of his kid going through the judicial system continues at a high rate. And if that's where all our fathers are, then that's the area that we really need to put a lot of effort into freeing our people. They're locking them up. They're throwing them away for petty offenses. It's deliberate. They know what they're doing. These laws was put in place for this. And we've been dealing with this in the South for a long time. And they got a lot of brothers that's innocent. They got a lot of brothers that's innocent. I have been a victim of it. Yes, I have done things. I have took my time. But on the flip side of it, I have been locked up for things I haven't done. You know, and he talk about his brother having a prior record, and I can contest to that. I can contest to that, but he talk about his brother having a prior record. But for those who can't wrap their mind around it, once you're inside that system, and you've been fighting charges for 2 years, right? Only thing on your mind is your freedom. The only thing on your mind in prison is your freedom, right? And you've been fighting the system for 2 years, and things go to getting bad on the street. Relationships sour. You and your wife might get a divorce. Yeah, jail time, incarceration breaks up homes. It breaks up families. It tears down the structure. Jobs lost, cars, house lost. It's hard to get money on your books. You know, your people got to pay for it except the phone call. Phone calls are sky high. It's just all the money-making process is made off the backs of poor people. And when you sitting in there for 2 years and somebody come at you and say, man, look, we got a deal on the table. You could get out of jail today, or you could get out of jail in a couple of months. And you can see a future. Whether you're innocent or not, tell me what choice you would make. Would you stay in that jail 1 day longer, or a couple of years longer, fighting for your innocence, and you could get out today, even though you know you're innocent? And a lot of guys take that deal, not knowing the ramifications that it will have, not knowing about voting, not knowing about it's gonna lock you out the job market, not knowing about you owning a gun, not knowing about denying you federal grants when you're trying to further your education. So that one conviction locks you out of a lot of things, and a lot of guys don't know that. And before you know, when you locked out of things, is your mind goes into survival mode. Because you still have to maintain a life for yourself, not only for your family, but just a normal life for you. So people do what they have to do. And before you know it, brothers get caught up. And this brother got caught up. They got caught up and they sent them away. And it's sad that this brother has to spend the rest of his life behind bars, behind some hedge clippers. That don't make no sense. That don't make no sense, man. It's outrageous. It don't make no sense. And it pisses me off. Because I know they got innocent dudes in there. No, they got innocent people. But still, if you're not innocent, goddamn, let's use common sense, people. The money we spending to keep this guy locked up and away from society, behind non-violent offense. When you got people that's getting out of jail for murder because of the COVID-19. Sad, people. But this book got a girth. It's true, Serum. You know I'm always coming with the truth. Educate yourself, educate your family, educate your community. You know what I'm saying? If you don't like this, all I can say, you can't handle the truth.